Welcome to Jump Seat Conversations, a Travel Again advisory podcast. We believe the right idea deserves the right audience, so let's start the conversation now. Please welcome to the stage, Managing Partner of Travel Again Advisory, Mike McCormick. Today's conversation is with Ron DiLeo, co-founder and CEO of safetravelRX. Fasten your seatbelts and let's begin.
Hey, Ron, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Good morning.
All right. Wow. So somebody named Dr. Steve Diamond and his wife, they love to travel to remote places around the world. And after Steve was released from the hospital about a week before a planned trip to India, they were trying to decide whether to still go on the trip or not. So they ended up going on the trip as planned. And luckily they had a really wonderful, uneventful trip. But because Steve was prepared, he had peace of mind. He had done the research extensively because of his situation. So the experience became a foundation of the Safe Travel RX concept. After sharing the idea with a neighbor, Ron DiLeo, a veteran travel industry expert, the two men decided they had a startup concept that could change the way people could safely travel. So in fact, could take the worry off the traveler's itinerary altogether. So I like that backstory because it's rooted in real life experiences. But Ron, welcome, and give us the pitch. Tell us why Safe Travel RX is a great business.
Well, okay, great. Thank you. This is actually really timely because we're out trying to raise some outside investor funds. So I've got this pitch down to less than 2 minutes. So the first thing I'll say is that, we're an app that's designed to provide like just-in-time assistance when things go bad when you're traveling. We are literally the services you don't know you need until you need it. Until this year, we've been focused primarily on the SME, the small, mid-sized enterprise business travel segment with companies like law firms and financial service companies, marketing agencies, and so forth, who, needed duty of care solutions, but weren't going to pay what the prevailing rates were that the Fortune 500 teams pay for, really sophisticated security programs. So that was, so our subscriber base right now are primarily SME business travelers. And we're now aiming our focus on the consumer travel space, which is like an infinite universe. You guys are both travel guys, so I know you know what I mean.
Right.
What makes our company different is that there's two things actually, besides yours truly and my partner. We have 5 patents, in the emergency services arena, and specifically that makes our technology proprietary. The good news is, I guess the flattering news is, Apple and Google have since compromised all 5 of those patents. But it still gives us street cred, in the investment space, and so it does differentiate us from any of the other emergency services providers that are out in the market. Second thing that makes us different is we actually have no employees. The company is completely run by myself and Steve Diamond. Steve runs all the operational stuff and the IT development and the information sourcing and so forth. And I run all the commercial aspects of the business. And, we're good friends and we make a good force in terms of partnership. I mentioned seeking investors a couple of times now. If you wanted to understand where we are as a startup, we're a 10-year-old startup, so we're not like building any things. We don't have to do any proof of concept stuff. In using investor parlance, you would refer to us as being in the seed stage, because we've bootstrapped this business from the beginning, Steve and I, and to go into the consumer world, you need a lot more revenue. So this is why we're out looking for $4 million. I might mention that like 6 or 7 times in this call in case there's anybody out there with $4 million you want to pony up. But anyway, so so one of the first things investors ask is like, what's critical about our product? And I'll give you a little known piece of trivia. The word travel actually is derived from the word travail, right? Because when you travel, you run into stuff that's unexpected, unlike most industries. And we fix the unexpected stuff, and we do it smoothly, and we do it elegantly, and we do it dependably. And right now, in a world that's full of uncertainty, in so many ways, geopolitical, climate, there's just a whole bunch of that stuff out there right now. You need our app more than ever right now, today.
So you're had success working in kind of more the B2B sector, working through partnerships, et cetera, to build your business. You've kept your costs, your operation costs, largely variable because you guys are running it, but then using contractors in varying forms, aside from your core technology. So, like, being back to the product itself, like let's just talk for a minute. Like, what kind of disruption do you see your customers mostly, coming to you for? I mean, you have this jump the line service for when people have flight disruption. Is it more medical? Is it that kind of service? Is it both? Like, give a little feedback. Like, what does your current customers tell you?
Well, so what surprises me most about travel after all these years is how little people actually know what to do when things break down. Yeah. Right. Yep. Despite, in the business travel world, you got seminars, you got newsletters, you got all kinds of efforts that go into making sure your travelers are informed on duty of care and everything else. But all that academic stuff goes out the window when things actually break down. Right. So that, if I think about why, why I mentioned earlier, why the consumers and business travelers need us now more than ever, it's because people seldom prepare enough they prepare for what's expected. They don't prepare for the unexpected.
Yeah.
And by contracting all of the guts of our operation, other than the technology, we constantly have the best in class providers providing the content, and the resources within the app. So when I was, with American Express, in Europe, we used to constantly grapple with whether we should build it or buy it, and it turned out like every 2 or 3 years, you change those decisions, and we're not big enough, we're not American Express. So we just made the decision up front, let's just buy it, and we're going to pay a little bit more than what it would cost for us to do it ourselves, but we're going to always have the best in class providers. It's always going to be current, so, so in answering your question, it's one of our key differentiators. And when you couple that with what's going on in the marketplace right now, we're always going to be there. We're just always going to be there, whether you need us or not.
Right. Now, the medical part is, again, is a big, is equally a big part of your offering.
Right.
And, any I'm assuming like a use case for that is, again, you're away somewhere, you have a medical issue,
right,
and you need help right away. And rather than go through all the, the struggles of trying to figure out either you just like through your hotel or family members are trying, being in panic mode, you get instant access to people who can help you. Is that pretty much the thrust of the model there?
Yeah. So interestingly, when we launched the company back in 2015, we were a medical app service provider.
Right. That was started there. Yeah.
That was our whole gig, and then, we applied the patents, we built the technology, we made it all relevant. And, to this day, it works better than it does more than even what Apple and Google can provide.
Right.
And I'll give you a specific example, right? The patents, we have 5 patents. 3 of them have to do with medical assistance. When you hit the emergency button, you get emergency response from local ambulances and, and police and, and whatever. And when you hit the button, it sends a message to your emergency contacts. It sends, which is one of the patents. It sends your synoptic medical information, which is like the medications you're on, your allergies and so forth. And it sends a note to anybody who cares that you have on your emergency care list. So those are, the synoptic information is the only thing that has not completely been replicated. Apple has the ability, but they don't deploy it. Google didn't even go after it because there's so many liabilities around with HIPAA provisions and everything else. It's a sticky thing, right? But because we don't store any information in our servers, you download the app and you put in your information and it stays on your phone. We don't store any stuff.
Great. That's great.
Unlike Apple and Google.
So, okay. So then, speaking of technology, of course, everything today is AI. So what does AI factor in? How does it factor into this? And, how do you see it changing traveler assistance in general over, in the years to come?
Well, it's an endless debate within the travel industry about, how close the AI functionality gets to the user experience. And frankly, we don't need to worry about that. For me, for us, for our company, I'll just give you a quick retrospective. When I got into the travel business, I was an agent. I took calls from people, and I booked their arrangements. I delivered their tickets. I did all those things that you did as a travel agent back in the late 70s, right? And I learned very quickly that the secret to being good in travel is knowing where to look, right? So our agents, for the Jump the Line service and wherever else you're talking to, we have patented AI that's built into the technology that enables them to get to information quickly. Because you can't keep it all in your head, right? There's no manuals for it. Right now, if you've played with AI at all, and I know both you guys have, you type in what you're looking for and it comes up. It just makes us that much more efficient, when we're taking calls from people who are in desperate need, right? With urgency. So that's how we use AI. I doubt we will, in our case, I doubt we will ever use AI to talk to people because, and I'll just speak as myself, when I need something, especially if it's an emergency, I get annoyed when I have to wait to, through prompts and I'm talking to voices, and people want to talk to somebody. So in our case, you're going to always talk to a live person who's informed by patented AI technology. So that's our flirting with the AI side of the travel business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because you talk about, especially in those situations, this isn't like your normal, like, hey, I'm planning a trip, I'm doing this, whatever, I'm making a booking. It's like, this is like, I'm in a very human emergency kind of, and/or, distressed kind of situation. I want a voice, and I think that still resonates, and it probably should resonate for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Especially in that and that's the situation, you've aimed. This is where you've aimed your business. Right. Well, so we've got a personal question, and then we'll go for the closing question for Jump Seat Conversations. So, look, you've led businesses in the industry for years. You've been, you've worked in every aspect of the business, advised businesses. What got you excited about building a new one?
Well, so for the first, I don't know, maybe 5 years of Safe Travel RX existence, I could do Safe Travel RX as a side gig and still have, a full-time job as an executive with various different companies. But it got to the point where I needed to put 100% of my time into it. And which is why I broke away from, the safety of having a full-time job into, being the CEO of an upstart, company. The other reason, and I'm going to take a quick liberty here, and don't panic when I say this, I've been really good in my career at helping make money for shareholders, orchestrating it through like really smart people that I handpicked, and we fixed businesses, we got businesses going, we did a whole bunch of stuff. and I made good money doing that, but I never made what I refer to as FU money. And before you get worried about FU, the definition, the acronym stands for fortuitous uptake, right? Fortuitous meaning right place, right time, right conditions. Uptake meaning, what's the Greek mythological character who pushes the boulder up the mountain? Soviet, right? So if you're going to be successful as a startup, you need to push that boulder up there, with conviction, and because the money's at the top, if you've done it the right way. So I saw us having the ability to do that, and between that and being and wanting to make sure that we didn't let our investment just go away because we weren't managing the business properly. Those are the two reasons why I broke out of the mainstream and focused on it. Yeah.
So final thing, tell us something about the business you haven't told anybody before.
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is in 2015, we actually pitched what was then branded as My Travel Mate. We pitched it to Apple. We went out to Fullerton, California. We pitched it. We wanted to be the travel component of the first iPhone that they were launching, 2 or 3 months later. And I had gotten to know the Apple guys, when I was in Europe, and the head of Apple in Europe and I became good friends, and he orchestrated the meeting, and we went there, we pitched it. They loved the idea. The bad news was that it was too soon to launching the phone to add us to the mix, and they promised to keep us in mind for the next release. And by the time the next release came out, they copied all the stuff from the app, and
they liked it too much. Yeah.
So I guess that's the littlest known fact, but I'm still flattered to the fact that they, some of the best flattery is being copied, and So anyway,
so certainly good validation of your concept, and still, the significant amount of it's a big world out there in terms of customer base. So
it is.
Yeah. Well, welcome.
Just quick, did I mention that we're looking for $4 million of outside investor money?
It did come up a few times, I believe. Good luck with the fundraising. Good luck with the business, and thank you for joining us in the cockpit.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, bye now.